The term fake news is thrown around quite a bit these days, but what people might not realize is that there's big money being made when fake stories on social media go viral. The ad tech side can be complicated, so I sought answers from two UMass researchers, Joshua Braun, who is also a professor in the journalism department, and his research partner, Jess Eklund, and asked them to break it all down.
In the wake of the 2016 election, you saw a lot of news coverage of basically people who had put out hoax news stories, sort of fake coverage of the election that contained counterfactual information, and that they had made an enormous amount of money. So people were making $20,000, $30,000 off of these websites. And they were doing so basically by selling advertising on their pages. So if you visited one of these sort of hoax sites, an ad was displayed to you, and the person publishing the page made some money off of that. And so whatever sort of ended up happening with respect to whether or not hoax news might have had an influence on the election or something along those lines, what I was really interested in, because I'm sort of an infrastructure person, was sort of what is the setup? How is it that that the sort of advertising industry had created these strange or like perverse incentives for publishing sort of fraudulent information. And so I happened to have like a great collaborator, a research assistant coming in at the time who was interested in these topics. And so we decided that it was something we would look into.
How did you set out to do your research? Tell me, the folks that you interviewed and how you progressed from there.
So we did a browser crawl. So we looked at a lot of hoax news sites, and we looked at how they were publishing their ads. And then we also interviewed, I think about around 20 people who worked in the industry and trade organizations, and also people who worked at the actual platforms and organizations that publish ads or target users.
Okay, and give us an example of one of those fake news stories that you came across in your research.
Well, so a lot of them are actually cut and pasted across different sites. So you might encounter the same article, something like Hillary wore an earpiece during the debate or something like that and was fed answers. And you might encounter those multiple times across different websites. In terms of what the coverage of this looked like, that kind of inspired us to get started on the project. To give one example, the Washington Post was reporting that sort of a recent college graduate had set up a hoax news website with the story that somewhere in Ohio, an electrical worker had stumbled across a warehouse full of pre-filled ballots that were all going to basically go for Hillary, and were going to be stuffed into ballot boxes on election day, right? So this is, I think that story made something like $20,000 in ad revenue while it was sort of in its most popular phase. The website that it was published on, because it got appraised for 6 figures, basically. It was receiving so much traffic that basically if the proprietor had decided they wanted to sell the domain name to somebody who was interested in taking over a successful website, they could have gotten something like 6 figures just for selling the domain during its sort of peak traffic period. So clearly people were making, at least in the sort of most successful cases, a lot of money off of this, and it was something that kind of we certainly wanted to look into.
And explain just kind of how the whole process works as far as the advertisements and following the money and how this is all set up.
So basically, in the old days, when you wanted to reach somebody with an advertisement, you would typically go to the publication that was the best kind of proxy for the audience that you wanted. So if you're interested in, for example, selling suitcases or luggage, you might advertise in a travel magazine or something like that, under the assumption that the people who are buying the travel magazine are going to be the people who are most likely to be in the market for suitcases. Today, though, with the amount of tracking that's done online and the amount that sort of advertisers or their ad agencies can know about you from your browser behavior, what's often done is basically you as an individual or people who look like you as an individual from their behavior online will be targeted based on their browsing history. And so you're familiar with this experience where if you view a flower pot on Home Depot's website, you have flower pot ads that follow you around for weeks. And so the kind of big proposition for advertisers is basically to be able to reach the desirable users wherever they are on the web. And that's accomplished through something called programmatic advertising. So basically it's an automated auction that happens when you load a web page where the publisher of the web page, the website you're visiting, is putting up some ad spaces for sale. and advertisers are bidding for your attention based on what they know about you, the user who's loading the web page, and an auction happens in a split second, and by the time you have loaded the web page, the ad is displayed to you.
Okay, and out of the advertisers that you spoke with, what was their reaction?
Well, the brands would say, they may find out that I don't want to be associated with this sort of content, but when selling the space, a lot of times in advertising, you want to get that desired user at the lowest cost. So if you can get that user when they're looking at, a less desirable website, that's going to be your ideal situation. So as opposed to paying for prime space somewhere else on the web.
As a professor in journalism at UMass, how does this undermine, the news media?
So there are lots of different ways that you could argue that sort of fake news or hoax news websites undermine this. But one of the big things is that a lot of these hoax websites, particularly the profit-driven ones, were actually engaged in fraud. A lot of the traffic that went to them was not even human traffic. It was not like sort of visitors who were legitimately interested. It might be click workers in developing economies who were paid to click on ads. It might be bots, like sort of automated scripts that were loading the web page. And so that phenomenon of fraud, collectively siphons billions of dollars every year out of the advertising market that would otherwise, in many cases, go to sort of reputable journalism. So in addition to sort of introducing lots of disinformation into the sort of public sphere, and incentivizing the creation of disinformation because suddenly it's profitable. It's also actually in some cases actively taking profits or money, taking money out of the advertising ecosystem that would otherwise go to traditional or ad-supported journalism. So it's problematic on a lot of different fronts.
And was there anything in particular that struck you, Jess, as you were doing this research?
Mostly about the amount of players that are in the system and how there's a lot of disincentives for people who are in the system to want to take action on it. Mostly the ability to point fingers at someone else in the chain to solve the problem. So the advertiser could point to the person who is selling the ad space, or then they could say, well, it's a trade organization's problem to solve, stuff like that. There being so many people involved that who will fix it.